call this regular meeting of the Simpson County Fiscal Court to order, and if you would, I'll ask you to join me in a prayer and then a pledge to the flag. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us, and Lord, the many blessings that you've given us during life. And Lord, we just ask you this morning to be with our neighbors in Tennessee as they've gone through some devastating storms overnight. We just ask you to be with the families and friends that's lost loved ones, and we just ask you to be with the people in those communities that suffered all the loss and damage. Father, we thank you for this community. We thank you for the people that work and serve in this community and those that work hard to keep us safe. We just thank you for that. Lord, most of all, we thank you for your love and your Son, Jesus Christ, and we ask all this in his name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving into the agenda here, do we have any public comment? I see Representative James Comer's field rep, Ms. Sandy Simpson, come to join us. Sandy, it's always good to have you with us. Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah.
You come right ahead.
You don't mind, I do apologize for coming in trying to get late this morning. Thank you all very much. I need to stand here.
If you don't mind to be at the microphone, that way everyone can hear on the recording.
Once again, I'm out of breath, but
It's a long drive over.
well, yeah. But you know, it was a beautiful drive over this morning. It's really, as I thought about the drive over, I thought about the devastation that happened in Tennessee, just right down the road from all of us. And I thought some prayers go out to those families who have lost loved ones during the night. And houses and businesses can be replaced, but lives cannot be.
Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly mention to you that Congressman Comer really appreciates everything that you all do. He appreciates the fact that I've been here on community office hours, and I'll be here this Thursday. This Thursday at 1 p.m. So if anyone would like to come and visit with me, talk about federal issues, I'll be here at 1 o'clock downstairs in the meeting room. I'm still trying to catch my breath. But I also wanted to mention that the congressman will be here himself next Thursday. I think that's the 12th.
12th, yes.
12th. So we're still working on his schedule, and if anyone would like to talk to me about meeting with the congressman that afternoon, I'll be glad to talk to you. We'll try to work something out. But thank you all for just letting me say a few words, and thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you. We're glad to have you. We appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have with us from the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, District 3, Mr. Joe Plump, Casey Pettigo, and Clifton Hurley, and they're going to have a presentation of the 2021 Rural Secondary Program. So, gentlemen, y'all have the mic and the floor, and we're glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Judge Science and members of the Fiscal Court. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. The reason we're here is because KRS 177.330 requires the Department of Highways to give an annual report on our rural and secondary roads program. So we do that typically this time of year in the spring before the construction season begins. I want to start, before we get into the list, let me first introduce Casey Pettigo. He's the gentleman who distributed those handouts that we'll reference here shortly. He is our transportation engineer supervisor in the Scottsville office. That office handles all the maintenance responsibilities for Simpson, Allen, and Monroe. So Casey's fairly new face to that office, and you'll see him quite a bit. And if you have any concerns, of course, you can reach us. Clifton Hurley is an engineer in training, a recent engineer graduate, and he started with us about a year and a half ago in our office, and he's a great engineer and is a great addition to our office as well. So you'll see him especially on construction projects in the area. I'd like to start off by telling you some of the good things that have occurred in Simpson County. Before we get to the list, I'll be real brief, I promise that. So you may recall that last year we had several discretionary fund announcements within Simpson County. Now, these are competitive funding programs. Lots of communities request funding for streets and paving and drainage improvements. And this community in particular was very fortunate. $565,332 came to the Simpson County Fiscal Court late last year. That was for 6 roads. That's quite astonishing, 12 miles of resurfacing in Simpson County on county roads. So congratulations to you for that. We were just out at Dinwiddie, and I think that was one of the roads that's recently paid. That was one of the roads that was on that list. Also, $114,482 came to the city of Franklin for 4 streets. That's more than 1.5 miles of city streets that were repaired here within the city. So that's great news. That was funding that was not anticipated when we stood here with you a year ago. You've heard about the Bridge in Kentucky program. I know as you go to KCO and Judges Conference, Magistrates Conference, you hear a lot about Bridge in Kentucky. These are 400 critical bridges across the state that are either closed or have such weight limits that emergency vehicles and school buses can't cross. And Simpson County has 4 bridges within that program. You've probably heard, even in the last few weeks, if you follow our Twitter or Facebook page, Westwatt, our public information officer, had sent out information about the bridge on Pleasant Hill Road. I think it was supposed to close yesterday, but due to the weather, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it actually closed yesterday. So we're going to, no reason to close it and no work be done. So that closure, there'll be probably a new announcement about that, but just know that it's any day now. We'll be closing that. The contractor will have approximately 45 days to complete that work. Also on Highway 585, and technically this bridge is in Allen County, but it's right on the line, Simpson-Allen line, and that is a contract that was also supposed to start yesterday, and the contractor will have 60 days. So there'll be detours, there'll be message boards alerting motorists to use other routes. Highway 621 over Sinking Creek, that was actually put out to bid in November. The work hasn't started yet. We don't have our contract fully executed, but you can see that work likely coming this calendar year. And then Highway 664 over Sulphur Spring Creek, that is scheduled to let, not this month, but very soon. So that's, if I add it all up, that's about $1.5 million of bridge repairs, new bridges within Simpson County. And finally, I'll talk about our primary paving. So what you see on your sheet, this is what we call our rural and secondary roads. These are lower priority roads, if you will. They're lower volume roads. But our primary routes, this is a competitive process with all of our routes within the 10-county area, and Simpson County has one on the list. That's Highway 100, Scottsville Road. It's about 3/4 of a mile. It's a pretty short section of roadway from the bridge over CSX out to 1008. So you know where that is, out toward the minute mark. Bridge over the railroad over to 1008. So that work should also be done this calendar year. So now we get to the main event. That's the rural secondary presentation. You can see at the top of the list, the fiscal year 21 projected allotment, $844,822. Now, we did go over our allotment last year. We had some other critical needs that we had to dip into this year's account within the allotments. So that reduced our allotment by $106,243. So in a sense, we overspent last year, reduces what we have for this year. That leaves us total funds available, $738,579. Line item number 1, this is routine maintenance and traffic on 95 miles of rural secondary classified roads in Simpson County. This is cut right off the top. 42% of that allotment goes to the crew's ability to go out and work on these roads. That's drainage improvements, that's pipes, that's patching and pothole repairs, those sorts of things. So that's just our ability to work on those roads throughout the fiscal year, and you can see that allotment. Item number 2, county judge expenses, $2,584. That's true for every county in the Commonwealth. It's just an administrative cost, so the judge's office can have something to charge to as you work through projects, mainly projects that are on the flex funds. So we're going to skip down to item number 4, flex funds. These are funds that come directly to the county. It's 20% of that initial distribution. That's $168,964. that comes directly to you for you to choose however you see fit to use on county roads. I will say that if you have any state-maintained roads that are rural secondary, we'd be happy to work with you to see those projects happen. But we understand that you have the needs as well, so fully expect that you will utilize those for your maintained roads. That leaves us one final line item. So $212,230 is left, and that's where Casey comes in and he drives all those routes, analyzes those, and prioritizes. And because of the needs on Blackjack Road, it really only allows us one project this year. So you can see on the map as a reference, Highway 1171, that's Blackjack Road, from the intersection with 1008 out to Ditmore Ford Road. It's about, let's see, 2.5 miles, and that's fixing base failures and resurfacing the roadway. That's $212,230. So that's the rural secondary report. Be happy to take any questions about this or any other questions you have about state highways in Simpson County.
I have a couple of questions more about some other things other than just this particular report. Number one, I know last year we sat down and kind of prioritized what our top projects would be for Franklin and Simpson County, and we were scoring those and giving points. And our one project that scored the highest was the intersection at 1008 and 31W out on the south side of town. Where are we at in something happening with that?
Great question. The governor submits a recommended budget. That's a general budget, that's a transportation budget, and a long list of projects. That was done on January 28th, 29th, the last week of January. He presents that to the legislative branch. So in a sense, that's his feedback on what the budget should look like. And that's based on information gathered last year when we met to talk about those priorities, like you said, 1008 at 31W. So now it's in the House, the House of Representatives. There's a transportation committee, they make changes, the House will vote on it. That hasn't happened yet. Once that's done, the Senate Transportation Committee will work through, the Senate will vote, and by April 15th, there should be an enacted budget, an enacted plan. So we'll have more information to share with you. Right now, everything's kind of up in the air. Certainly reach out to your state representative and state senator if you have any needs that you would like to get added during the session. But as of now, I believe that project that you mentioned did not make the recommended plan by the governor. But that doesn't mean you don't have an opportunity to get it added during the session.
Okay.
I may mention that last year, and I appreciate you getting the end of 1008 fixed out by Highway 383. That was in very bad shape, and they came through and got that fixed. But what are you talking about? What were y'all talking about doing there? Just a light?
No, what we're talking about doing is it would be the west side of 31W on 1008, actually having a true left-hand turning lane so that each side of 1008 truly had left-hand turning lanes instead of the situation where we got now. Because most of the time, you're waiting through 4 light changes before each direction moves. And I mean, there are literally times on 31W at that light, traffic is backed up all the way to the Church of Christ.
I've seen it backed up to Frosty Freeze.
Yeah. I mean, and of course that was the thing, and that was the one we scored that one the highest, Marty, on our thing that we put together. We actually give our extra points to that project because the thoughts are if we could actually get 2 true left turning lanes and empty those at the same time instead of doing one and then waiting to do the other, it could help alleviate, it could move those lights a little quicker and help alleviate some of that traffic.
You've explained it quite well. The signal doesn't work as effectively as it could if we had an improved west side of 1008. So I think when we started off, after all that widening was completed, each side of 1008 had a green, which meant if you were trying to turn left, especially if you're coming from the north, you had to sit and especially tractor trailers, they weren't able to make those turns. So then we switched it to what we call split phase. So now the west side has a green and the east side has to wait. The east side has a green and the west side has to wait. Well, that just creates longer red time for Main Street.
Right.
So there's not really a simple solution. If we do one tweak, it kind of creates problems for one approach. If we do another tweak, it fixes that, but creates other problems. So that would be the ideal situation, is widening the west side. So we're hopeful that that will be in the budget.
And I may mention this every time you came up here, that turning lane coming from 31 north onto 1008, that needs to be widened back. The semi trucks that are turning there, they hit that curve. It's just tearing the curve up anyway, and it's tearing up tires, wheels, and everything when they turn there. They hit that, it busts them, and I've seen several that's happened. That needs to be either down even with the road or backed up 8 foot or something to help it there. And another issue, during big rains, it hasn't happened yet, but somebody's gonna get hurt bad. That water coming out of the TSC parking lot and crossing 31, I've seen it in that right-hand lane. I've seen it a foot deep there. And it's a bad hazard when it's during a big rain. And that can be addressed, by the water coming out of the parking lot. The drainage is not right there. It shouldn't be going across that road like that.
It's tough because the water's coming from a private property, and we went out there. I've been out there several times at TSC, and doing work on a private property, especially when there's a very dense set of utilities that are underground, it's not as simple. We're going to capture it all and pipe it. So it's just, I know it's a priority, and I know it's an issue. I don't have a simple fix right now, but it is something that we've talked about internally. If we can get the right amount of funding to help us do something, even something that's not ultimate fix, but a little bit of an improvement. We do know, we get calls about that.
Joe, on 585, are there any plans to do any resurfacing or paving back, like from, and I don't know the road number for Roark Road, but back towards 73?
771.
Yeah, because it's...
No, it's like that.
It's,
Well, unfortunately, so yes, the answer is yes, we're going to have to go out there and do some patching. When we were here last year, guess what? It was on our list, and we just paved it last year.
Yeah.
And it's already deteriorated, and we know why, and we know, but those trucks are perfectly legal to be on that road by state law. So we're just having to chase it and Band-Aid it, and a brand-new paved road is now having to be... It's all coming into town because that's where they're loaded, and we're going to have to do some patching. And Casey knows that. We've talked about it. We just can't do it right now. So when the asphalt plants come, we'll get a delivery order going, and we'll have to do some patching in those areas that it's particularly bad.
I got 2 phone calls this morning that they were wanting to know if there was something they do to make them pave that back further to get some of that dirt and dust off the trucks before they get on Gold City Road, because these people are driving new vehicles through there, and they're having to wash them. Luckily, we got you can go through every day for a monthly fee, but that was one of their complaints they were having. They can't keep a vehicle clean going through there. They didn't know if it could be addressed somehow or another to keep back further where there would be less gravel dust getting out on them.
I can't make a private property owner pave on their private property, so if the county has a planning and zoning, a code enforcement, then you might have the ability to do that. But as far as the transportation cabinet, unfortunately, my jurisdiction stops at about the 30 foot off the road. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I don't have.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Nick, any other questions?
Thank you very much.
I'm done.
And I hope you know that our conversation does not stop here. I know the judge has my phone number. We text each other if anything comes up. I encourage you to all do the same thing. And these gentlemen here, if nothing else, we're going to be responsive, even if it's not always the answer you want to hear. We're going to be responsive. We're going to talk. We're going to come out and look at.
And I can say, every time I've called, texted, or emailed, you've responded in a very quick manner. So I appreciate that.
But the bridge on 585. Are they not putting a complete new bridge in? They're just pulling the top off that and putting a new top on? Is that?
I believe that's right. Do you guys know?
They're not, so they're not gonna make that bridge any wider or anything?
No, that wasn't the goal of Bridging Kentucky. Bridging Kentucky was not about, widening and adding shoulders and enhancing the bridge. It's about, we have a bridge that has weight limits or is closed in many cases. So we're just trying to put back the exact same bridge, but with
Make
a
it
brand new
structurally
deck. So it's a
sound.
new structure, it'll have a new deck. I think the piers, the abutments are all going to be the same, but it's the deck itself.
I sure wish they would have added some to it, put a whole new bridge in. That bridge is dangerous with it, even like one-ton trucks. That bridge is dangerous to meet on, it's so narrow.
They're trying to address 400 bridges across the state. Frankfurt has allocated a significant portion of money. So for every bridge that gets widened, that's one other bridge maybe in another area that doesn't get done. So that's the reasoning for that. And I understand, we get that question a lot, but it's mostly about maintaining what we have versus enhancing an existing structure.
I do have one on the Sinking Creek Bridge. What is the plans on that? I mean, y'all gonna straighten that curve out?
It's just pull and replace. So we got a bad bridge, we're fixing the bridge.
Really?
It's not road improvement. It's like I just said, it's not road improvements, it's not fixing curves, it's not enhancing the road. It's, you have a bridge that a school bus can't cross, we're gonna put a bridge back in that a school bus can cross. That was the goal of the program. And that has to be in order to address the number of bridges across the state that.
That's a very dangerous spot with these grain. If they meet, somebody's got to stop. I mean, they can't see around the curve.
I understand.
That's my question.
That wasn't my decision. That's
So,
a program to use hundreds of millions of dollars of funds to address bridges across the state. So I'm sorry about that. But we get that question a lot. I understand, but that's the reason. Anything else?
Joe, Casey, Clifton, we appreciate y'all being here with us.
Thanks a lot for your time.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Beth Laster from the. Okay. Yeah, Scott's made a motion to acknowledge the presentation.
Second.
Nate, second. Thank you, guys.
Please.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Myron Thurman.
Yes.
Mason Vaughn.
Yes. Next, from the county clerk's office, we have Ms. Beth Laster to present the county clerk 2019 settlement. She's coming up all smiles.
You do all of them since you didn't get it on there.
Thank you. Thank you. She wouldn't. What's wrong with her?
This is just the settlement for the 2019 fee account. And at the bottom, it shows it zeroes out. And then, of course, once we get the final audit, if there's any more, we'll find that too. And Mason has the check attached to his.
What would be an example of an unpaid obligation?
It would be like any checks that were written, say if it was written post 2019, and let's say I wrote it in January for a 2019 activity. It
Okay.
had not cleared.
So that would be different. That would be different than outstanding checks?
Right, outstanding checks were written in 2019.
Okay, all right. All right.
So basically, you're showing the difference between the 2019 budget and the actual? So it looks pretty good.
The auditor was pleased to have a discrepancy whenever I was getting him to come and check. After he balanced everything, there was only an 88-cent discrepancy between what our bookkeeper had versus what the state had. So he was like,
And I will say the auditor could not say that on that. He had someone helping him. He told her, this is not
You've never seen
Yeah,
that?
he said you don't see it like this, so they're gone through 3 bookkeepers in 1 year, this 88 cents discrepancy, we deal with that.
Gentlemen, do y'all have any questions? Do we just vote to acknowledge we received this? or accept it? All right, so we need a motion to accept the county clerk's 2019 fee settlement.
So moved.
Motion by Myron, second by Scott.
Mike Irvin,
Yes.
Scott Hudson.
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing,
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Mason Lawrence.
Yes. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on into regular business. Gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review the minutes of our February 18th regular fiscal court meeting, we need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
Motion moved.
Motion by Nate,
Second.
second by Myron.
Nathaniel Downing,
Yes.
Myron Herman,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Next, gentlemen, would be to review and approve the first reading of fiscal year 1920 budget amendment number 6, ordinance number 220.213. If there any questions? I know one number has changed there, Myron, and did you see that?
No, I didn't.
It did. So just a real brief explanation on the reimbursement funds and jail personnel. The jail, and if I get this wrong, the jailer can come up and correct it, but the jail had a washer go down, a washing machine, like I guess clothes or whatever. And so they're going to pay for it out of the commissary, but we have to have the PO today. You got to have the PO today. The money has to be there today to issue the PO. So we transferred money out of personnel to get it there. When we do the balancing of everything, that commissary money will go back. It was originally thought that that washing machine would be about $8,000. As it turns out, it's $12,000 and something. But the entire purchase price of that washer is reimbursed out of the jail commissary.
Yeah, it will go into the general fund. And
Right.
each person, however you
Yeah.
see fit.
Gotcha. Expensive washing machine.
Yeah, and then some of these are just changes in grants that come that obviously we weren't aware of at budget preparation time and so on and so forth. So if there's no other questions, we just need a motion and a second to approve this budget amendment.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Myron, second by Nate.
Myron Herman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. All right, gentlemen, these next three items are issues that I've worked off and on over this past year on, not continuously for a year, but off and on throughout the year. And so there's a few changes, nothing major, but two of them have to be adopted by ordinance, one by just simple majority vote. If y'all remember hearing Thursday up there, the one gentleman that spoke said that if you did not have a social media policy, you absolutely needed to implement one. But we'll start with the ordinance number 230.27, revisions to the administrative code. And so all of the other elected constitutional officers, all the other department heads, and all the administrative staff have all seen and reviewed the proposed changes, and they can speak now if they have something otherwise to say, but as best I know, all the department heads and other elected officials are fine with the proposed revisions to the admin code. All right.
Did you ever, did we address that about part-time seasonal?
Yes,
We asked about our code for.
yes.
Yeah, Michelle looked up that number that we had, and we changed that number to meet what the state has said. And I emailed you guys, of course, it's on the portal, but I also emailed you guys out a week ago, the revisions, and obviously, I think you could figure it out. The things that were being changed had a line striking through it, and what was highlighted in yellow was the proposed revisions.
So all the department heads, everybody's on board.
Yes.
I think on that 1.2, it says the judge executive shall designate, and then it says may appoint. Oh, no,
Well,
it's got a shall and then it has a may, so that was confusing there.
I think the shall is struck because the actual KRS says may.
Okay, well, it's not struck on there.
Well,
That's the reason I was
it should
asking.
be. You gotta understand, Marty, I was doing these myself.
I understand.
So I'm not the best at computer technology.
But if you look at it on this portal, it doesn't, the shall part's not struck out, and then down below it says may, so I didn't know which way.
If you look at that KRS, the KRS says may, it does not say shall.
Right.
So I just changed the language to go with that KRS.
That's not, so that shall part will be struck out.
It will be struck.
Okay.
Which?
1.2.
Okay. Yeah, that will be struck.
Okay.
Well, now, which part are you talking about?
Right there at the beginning sentence.
Right, but that one shall may remain because it says may appoint a deputy judge executive who shall serve consistent with the KRS. So it doesn't say.
No, it says the judge executive shall designate.
First sentence.
By written.
Okay, yeah, that will be changed.
And then below that it says may appoint.
Yes, that will be changed. I just overlooked that one, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you were raising the per diem from $10 a day to $15 a day?
Yes.
And, let's see.
Maybe one of the biggest changes, some of the biggest changes were Good Friday being a full day holiday rather than a half day holiday. Trying to think some of the other major changes were bereavement time off, if you look at that section. Another change that just made more sense was the actual holiday pay for the people who are actually scheduled to work on the actual holiday rather than the day that the county observes the holiday.
And if it's over 40 miles, then it's $40 per day instead of 35.
Right.
Okay.
We need a motion to approve the revisions to Administrative Code Ordinance number 230.27, yes.
All right, motion moves.
Motion by Nate, second by Scott. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Did you put an effective date on it?
It will be effective on second reading and passage.
And I don't know whether that will be our next fiscal court meeting or the one following. It'll depend on how we advertise for the ordinance change.
It's advertised for the 17th, unless I pull it as soon as we look at this meeting.
Okay. So it would be effective on passage on March 17th. You good with that being part of the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Scott, you good?
Nathaniel Downs,
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Next, the Code of Ethics. I don't think the Simpson County Code of Ethics have been updated since it was mandated by the Kentucky legislation of like 1993. So I looked at the Brad's Code of Ethics, a few other counties' Code of Ethics, and the city's Code of Ethics, kind of looked at all of them together. And here again, I forgot to say this on the first one, but all of the other elected officials and department heads and staff has reviewed this. County attorney has reviewed this along with the admin code revisions and the social media policy. So we would have to, by first and second reading of ordinance number 230.28, revise the Simpson County Code of Ethics. And of course, you gentlemen, I think I emailed you guys copies last week after everything was kind of filed, because we just had a meeting with all the department heads and other constitutional officers to make sure that everyone was good before we put a product in front of you to look at. Because if all the employees are going to be squabbling, there was no reason for us to vote on it.
That's correct.
Motion move.
So we have a motion by Nate to approve ordinance number 230.28, second by Myron.
Nathaniel Downs,
Yes.
Myron Thurman.
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. And finally, gentlemen, the social media policy, there was some great discussion on how we could implement that. And we were told by the CAECO attorney that we could do that by resolution, by simple majority vote, or we could do it by ordinance. But the problem with the ordinance for social media policy is technology and social media changes so fast that you have to pay to advertise a revision or a change in an ordinance. But he said the attorney's, CAECO attorney's suggestion was to do it by simple majority vote and require all the employees to get a copy and sign that they had received a copy. And of course, you guys that were at the meeting last Thursday at the Brad, you heard that gentleman say that if you did not have a social media policy, you need one. So for the people listening at the public, I didn't just hear that last week and put this together in a week's time. This has been worked on off and on for a year to try to get this together. Any questions about?
No question.
So moved.
Motion by Myron to approve the social media policy, second by Scott.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Nathaniel Downs,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. All right, gentlemen, thank you. Next, under financial business, if you had an opportunity to review the budget transfers, we just need a motion and a second to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Myron, second by Scott. Any Nate, I'm sorry, second by Nate. Discussion? Questions?
Ready for vote?
Yes.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Downs,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Next, gentlemen, is, if you had an opportunity to review, would be to approve the bills and claims.
You know,
maybe we should do the cash transfer first, so it's in place before the bills.
I'm good with that.
I'm not sure that sometimes it's okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So we'll drop down one to review the cash transfer. It's general to jail. So the side note on that is this. We're doing this to cover a payroll week in the event that we do not receive the Class D money by the 13th of March. In February, we didn't get it till the 18th. If it doesn't arrive by the 13th, we don't meet again till the 17th. So this would be something we would approve, but would only utilize if that Class D money doesn't arrive at the appropriate time. So,
Motion moved.
have a motion by Nate, second by Scott to approve the cash transfer.
Nathaniel Hammond,
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. All right, so now we'll go back to, if you had an opportunity to review the bills and claims, we just need a motion and a second to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Myron, second by Nate. Yes.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Hammond,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Jackie, it's good to see you here with us this morning. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the court?
No, sir, I just showed my face.
All right, well, I would say it's a mighty fine face, but I don't know if I should lie. No, I'm just kidding. We're glad to see you, Jackie. Jackie helps us out a lot over here. We appreciate your work. Okay, moving into reports. The one thing I will say, we're looking ahead at the calendar and some vacation time for office staff and personnel. And the first week of April is spring break week, and our county treasurer will be out that week. Of course, obviously, the county treasurer has to sign every check. So what we're looking at doing for March is we'll meet today on the 3rd, then our regular meeting again on the 17th, then we'll probably do a special called meeting the 31st, but then cancel our regular meeting for April 7th. Is that
Fine, man.
fine? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
We actually, that's, Audrey and talk, we may be going somewhere too. Not set, yeah, that'd probably work better for me too.
And the timing factor, I mean, if we didn't meet like from March the 17th to April 7th, it would basically the same timing factor between March the 31st and then April, I guess that would be the 21st would be our next regular. And obviously if something crops up, we could have a special call meeting, but that's the tentative plan if there's no problem or anything. Next, and I don't want to get into a big long discussion about this, but I dropped you guys off some information about the History Center. There's one thing that's in the record of the minutes about the History Center was that the county actually loaned the History Center some money to help make that purchase. There's no record or documentation of how, if, or when that money would be paid back. Obviously, in some communications I've had with the History Center, they basically don't have the money to pay it back. If we said we want the money, they don't have it. So there's also some issues with the way that they go about some of the maintenance issues on the building. So I mean, I'm open for suggestions, but my thought is that we just forgive the debt in light of the benefit to the community of the History Center. Because basically, if we force them to pay the money back, they'll close the doors. I mean, they don't have the money to do it. But we also would need to rework in our lease agreement, which you have a copy of the lease agreement in front of you, for it to more clearly define how our facilities maintenance supervisor would absolutely oversee every aspect of the maintenance and work that's done at that building. So I guess my question to you guys today is, are you comfortable having a discussion about this today, or do you want to take that information, kind of process it some, and take this discussion up at our next meeting?
If I might make a respectful suggestion, Judge, if they've not seen all this ahead of time, maybe it might not hurt to let them.
I'm fine with that. If that's,
let them look over it and cogitate on it a little bit.
But what you have in front of you,
so be it. I mean,
what you have in front of you, and every section is highlighted in the record of the meeting of the minutes, is what was actually voted on by fiscal court, and also the actual lease agreement that is currently signed between the fiscal court and the history center.
We may need some more information, but my thoughts, they're obligated to pay these monies. Fiscal court lent with good faith that the Historical Society would pay back these monies. Now, they may have spent money that they didn't have, but they didn't go through the right channel. So we may need some more discussion. We may need a breakdown on the monies they spent and versus what fiscal court was obligated. But as the way I look at it, the Historical Society owes this money to fiscal court.
What I keep hearing is they're saying they spent money on the building that the county should have been spending.
Yeah, and they actually.
But I have yet to see anything showing.
I can make. They brought 2 folders full of receipts. I can make you copies.
Okay. If you could scan them onto the portal, it would be good. Or...
Oh, goodness gracious! There's probably 300 pages.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. But that's what I said. They spent. There was nothing brought before before they spent.
To be very honest about it, the whole situation was all good, but there was absolutely no documentation to really define how things should happen, other than the lease agreement that actually needs to be changed. The language in some of the lease agreement actually needs to be different. And so I think, and I'm good, and we'll get all the information. If you just let me know what information you want to get, I will do my very best to get it so we can discuss it. But I think we either have to do one of 2 things. Get the information you want, then we either have to say we're just going to move forward and let things be as they are, but redo the lease agreement where it better defines how that building will be maintained and what will happen there, or we make a decision that we want to say, and I don't disagree with Myron, that there's no doubt that the money was a loan, but we could do something with that and say we want this paid back in a certain manner with the possibility of it closing the history center down. I don't know that would happen. I just think that could be a possibility. So that's the things that I think we have to bear in mind when we decide what we want to do to kind of actually finalize or make a permanent decision on where we're at or what's going on. So if you guys would just give me a list of any information you want to get, we'll try to get it together.
Okay.
All right. Marty, you have anything?
We had the equipment committee meeting this morning at 7:45 to discuss some of the needs of the different departments. And usually this time of year, we're fixing to start planting. The farmers are fixing to start planting and spraying, and just be on the lookout. See a vehicle with a caution light, there's probably a large piece of farm equipment close behind, so want everybody to be safe, don't want anybody to get hurt.
Hopefully it gets dry enough you can get in the field.
Or You may see a boat coming by.
Yeah, may plant by boat this year.
Exactly.
Pontoons.
Nate, you have anything?
Nothing this time.
All right, sir. Scott?
Yeah, we had a soil conservation meeting last night. Michelle said that we needed to accept this plan of work for them that we do every year, I think. So I don't know if it requires a vote or if we just...
We can, like the other documents, we can make a motion that we received it, and then Pam can just keep a copy of it.
What is it exactly, Scott?
There's just a calendar of events that they'll do throughout the fiscal year.
Okay.
I didn't get copies if you want to.
No, that's fine, as long as it's just a calendar. I just didn't know what we were gonna vote on.
Yeah, just a calendar of their functions and activities for the year. So you make a motion that we received it? All right, need a second?
Second.
Myron, second. Any discussion? Okay.
So, Scott.
Yes.
Scott Huston.
Yes.
Mike Dunn.
Yes.
Nathaniel Downs.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Myron, you have anything? Counselor, you have anything today?
No.
Sheriff, you have anything?
No.
Jailer?
We're good.
I take it the county clerk doesn't. She left after the fee settlement report. Carter, anything with planning and zoning? Chief, anything with fire department? Bill, anything with maintenance?
I just got one comment about this deal with the history center, any court. Once the sea goes out of my bill, they're gonna have to be gone through. Like Mason said, it was probably that thick, and I started looking through them, and it looked like every bill that was ever there was put into the file, and some of them pertain to the new bill, and some of them don't. The Crabtree building I'm referring to, and some are dated, some have names at the top, the person who sent the invoice, some of them do not. So if we're going to use that as a factor in determining, which way we go with it, I'll have to, then you let me know, because I'll have to sit down with them. It's going to take some time to go through them invoices and see. Of course, the other thing was in the lease agreement, it did say that for any improvements, that they would be liable for any improvements. But we would still maintain, like the electrical, the plumbing, the HVAC, and some of those changes were made, and when I looked at some of the invoices, 2 or 3 different companies had been called in. So that did not go through this court or anything to do with us. Those decisions were made within. So, we're going to have to sit down and really see if we're going to use these invoices according to what the lease said at the time, or if we're just going to say we got a total of so many dollars of expenses, because it's the only way to really be accurate. We're going to have to sit down and define which bill applies to this, because I've seen 1 or 2 that actually were in reference to the old jail building and the archives that's across the street. So, if the court's interested in that, somebody needs to let me know, and I will get that folder, and I will, begin trying to decipher those out.
Of course, I think the county still owns the old jail.
Yes.
And I think their contingency was, even those bills to that were stuff we should have paid. But my situation is, and why I say we need to revamp the lease agreement, is they don't need to be calling to do any maintenance work on anything. And so if they had an issue at the old jail, rather than go get it fixed, we should have gotten called.
But if we decide to do, just say, here you go, do they keep the building or we keep the building?
I mean, the building is the county's. It's Simpson County Fiscal.
If will it still be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Bobby, anything in the road department?
Permits for anything in Macedonia, we're just waiting for them to schedule and start working on that. And unless something changed, I have equipment lined up for next week to start demolition on a bit more.
Yeah, all the windows and doors are out of it now.
Are they waiting to do something to the city waiting to do something to that street till we get, are we gonna have to dig up the street to get to the line, gas line or something, or dig over to it?
All the utilities are already shut off.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're just waiting for paving weather.
They're waiting to pave that road till we get done.
Okay.
Where they dug it up to work
Well,
on
I
it
just, when we were
summer.
talking about cutting it off, I thought they said they had to dig down
Most
something, cut the gas
utilities are in
lines
the
off.
alley in the back.
Okay.
All right, if all minds are clear, I only need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Nate. Second by Scott.
All in favor?
All in favor?